Bird Box stars Sandra This is goddamn ridiculous. I can't review movies with a freaking blindfold on. Bird Box stars Sandra Bullock, Trevante Rhodes, John Malkovich, and is directed by Susan Baer. What's up, guys? It's time for a new Netflix review. My God, Bird Box is all over social media lately. Everybody's talking about this movie. I watched it for a second time yesterday. Wasn't even planning on reviewing it, but I thought, you know what? I enjoyed it so much watching it again yesterday. I felt like I just needed to talk about this movie. I posted a poll on Twitter asking if I should do spoiler or non-spoiler. About 30% of you said I should do non-spoiler, but most of you said I should just do spoiler. And I will say this. Thank you for even caring that, that I do a review for this. I know that there are so many reviews for this movie out there. I definitely want to talk spoilers. So I'll say this will be a spoiler review, but I'll try to avoid the spoilers until later in the review, if that makes sense. Because there is like a couple things about this movie that I definitely need to talk about, And usually I'll do like spoilers after the rating, but I feel like the way I want to review this movie, I feel like I need to talk about some spoilers. But like I said, I'll give you a warning and I won't talk about that stuff until later. So stay around as long as you can, but I would recommend checking out this movie. If you're just looking for the quick down and dirty, if this movie's worth your time, damn right it is. It's actually very good. But anyway, quick plot synopsis. Bird Box is one of those movies that just begs conversation, much like A Quiet Place. It's funny because I've seen people say like it's see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil with Bird Box, A Quiet Place, and the movie Hush. We've covered, the senses, or we've covered the major senses. And this one is very similar to The Happening, so much so that it makes me wonder if M. Night Shyamalan wants a little bit of that money, because The Happening is a horrible movie. Not as bad as people make it out to be, but it's not a good movie at all. But the premise is irresistible in that there is this entity that is causing people to take their own lives. The whole covering your eyes thing, that's not in The Happening. That's something new for this movie, and I think it's brilliant. I think that's what was the problem with The Happening. It needed that extra element to really drive it home. And this is just a very interesting story based on a novel. But basically the premise of this movie is, like The Happening, there's this entity that comes along, and if you look at it, they even refer to it as a creature, even though we don't really see creatures in this movie. If you look at it, then you will kill yourself. So having to completely cover your eyes, blindfold yourself to survive is very interesting. Because, there are blind people on this earth and they have to live every day, with no sight. So what is it like when we're forced to live that way? But this movie runs on two different timelines, 5 years ago and the present day. And in the present day, right at the beginning of the movie, Sandra Bullock plays Mallory, and she's telling these two children that they need to follow her every command. There's no messing around, and whatever you do, do not take off that blindfold, because they're going to go down this stream to get to safety, and it is a 48-hour trip. And so throughout the movie, there are these scenes of them facing that obstacle. And then there are scenes from 5 years ago showing how we got here in the first place. Both segments of the movie are equally interesting. I guess let's start with the 5 years ago portion, how this thing all came to be. So Sandra Bullock, she's pregnant, and at the beginning of the movie, her and her sister, they're just going about their lives. And then they turn on the TV and they see that, I believe it started in like North Korea, but people, it's mass chaos. It's end of the world type stuff, and people are taking their own lives. When we see things happening in other countries, we always think we're safe, but they quickly realize they're not safe. They go outside. People are going complete ape shit. There's one scene where this woman literally walks into a burning car, and it's interesting because when they see the entity, their eyes turn to this really creepy looking visual. And it's almost like there's a comfort there, like they love what they're looking at so much that they just decide to kill themselves. So sometimes they say it's beautiful, but then there's this other group of people. It's said that they're like mental patients who don't kill themselves. they just become crazy and they try to get others to look at the entity to kill themselves. So that adds another dynamic to this movie that comes into play later. And that's the spoiler stuff that I want to talk about. But really most of this movie is Mallory and this group of characters, and they are all holed up in this house fighting for survival. You know, not wanting to go outside, because if they go outside then they have to be blindfolded. And there's a couple moments where they have to leave so they can, you know, go get supplies or go get food. But you got some interesting characters here, especially John Malkovich, who plays Douglas. John Malkovich is one of the greatest actors we have working today. The guy is like a treasure. And I loved him in this movie because he's that hard-ass son of a bitch, which he always plays this type of character the best.
Wait. Get up and get out. It's not an orphanage. New guy, you had a great visit. We really loved meeting you. Now, fuck off.
There's this one scene where this stranger comes into the house, and here's where we're going to start jumping into some spoiler stuff, okay? The stranger comes into the house, and John Malkovich, Douglas, is saying, get him the hell out of here. I don't want him in this house. I don't trust anybody. We're good like we are. And what do? They turn on him and they lock John Malkovich in the garage. And so then this stranger happens to be one of those like mental patients. And even their eyes look different than the normal people, you know, like you and me, that they go and kill themselves. But this section in the movie is just riveting. You know, and to add to that, you have this moment where Mallory and Olympia are giving birth at the same time. You have two pregnant women in this house. So while they're giving birth, this is when the stranger takes the opportunity to try to get others to, you know, to look at the entity, to open the windows.
Thank you. Look at this. Look at this.
Oh my God, Olympia, cover your eyes.
Isn't it beautiful?
No! Why are you doing this? Gary, please don't do this. Gary, please don't do this.
Show the baby.
And that scene is just completely insane. And I guess that's really the scene that hooked me into this movie. Like, I love when movies have scenes like that where you are just completely engulfed in what's going on. And really from this point on, the movie doesn't let up. Also, Mallory, she develops this bond with this character, Tom, played by Trevante Rhodes. And I really liked their chemistry together in this movie, actually. And really, Tom is like, you know, the saving grace. He is the one that saves Mallory from this. But Olympia, unfortunately, doesn't make it out. And I forgot to mention how crazy that is when her eyes turn and then she just runs and like jumps out the window. But eventually, you know, everybody dies. And then it's just Mallory and Tom and the two children. And Mallory is an interesting character, played remarkably by Sandra Bullock, because, you know, she just has a really rough past. She has a father that was just an asshole. And so she, you know, she just has this really tough exterior. Her guard is always up. She uses that really to protect the kids. It's almost like if she wasn't this type of person, then would those kids have survived? You know, I guess sometimes a rough exterior actually comes in handy. But she takes it upon herself to be a mother, but not the most compassionate mother. And so I think that's what makes that last scene when she's in the woods and girl, by the way, she names the kids boy and girl because she doesn't want to have that connection, because she feels like they're probably gonna die. Like nobody's gonna live through this thing. And so when girl at the end is trying to find her, she hears the entity in Mallory's voice. And the entity is telling her to take off the blindfold. And then you got Mallory in real life screaming at her to not to. And so then that's when she, I guess, turns on the love faucet and tells her, hey, I freaking love you, okay? So don't take your blindfold off. Am I just ripping at your heart right now? I can tell I am. But as a horror fan, I really loved this movie because it was almost like a new way to scare the audience. And let me just set the scene. Just imagine you're on the river and you're going down the river and you have a blindfold on. So it's even more scary, more dangerous that you're not on land. You're actually on river. And so I love this portion of the movie, the present day version, when they're trying to get to safety. And they have to be blindfolded the whole time for 2 days. It's insane. And then you got this one scene where this guy comes out of the water, one of the mental patients, and she has to kill him, but she can't even see him. Now, as far as any cons, I guess my biggest problem with this movie was the ending. And I don't hate the ending or anything, but I think I wanted something a little bit more ambiguous. I think it was a little bit too on the nose. But me, that's just the dark side of me. You know, I like a dark horror movie. I like an ending that has multiple possibilities. You know, it could be completely horrible, or there could be safety. And they pretty much give you the safety ending. You know, there's a bright future ahead, and that's all nice and everything. But like I said, I'm a grim type of horror movie guy. So it wasn't the ending that I was looking for. And I'm not alone too, because that's really the biggest complaint I hear about this movie is the ending. I think they should have went a different direction with it. But overall, guys, I'd say that Bird Box is one of the best movies of the year. Fantastic performances and an irresistible premise. And it's really the happening done right, I guess you could say. So for that, I'm going to give this movie a super high purchase worthy. And luckily, you can watch it on Netflix right now. So anyway, guys, post your thoughts on Bird Box in the comments. Looking forward to hearing them. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day, and on Fridays we do Free For All Fridays. If you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.